It started as a normal camping trip with my friends, the kind of night you look forward to all year. We gathered around the campfire, laughter echoing in the air, the warmth of the flames contrasting with the cold bite of the night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows danced around us. That's when I noticed something odd. A figure standing at the edge of the forest, barely illuminated by the flickering firelight. I squinted, but it vanished into the darkness. I shrugged it off. Just my imagination, right? The night wore on, filled with ghost stories and playful banter. But an unsettling feeling settled in my stomach, a sense that we weren't alone. I tried to shake it off, joining my friends in laughter, but my eyes couldn't help but glance toward the trees. Then I saw it again, this time closer. The figure was tall and cloaked in shadows, its presence sending a wave of dread through me. I glanced around. My friends were too engrossed in their stories to notice. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I decided to ignore it, convincing myself it was just the darkness playing tricks. But as the fire crackled and the stories grew darker, the feeling of being watched intensified. My heart raced, and I fought the urge to look over my shoulder. We decided to play a game, a daring challenge to see who could venture closest to the edge of the woods. My friends laughed as they took turns, bravado echoing in their voices. But when it was my turn, fear clawed at my insides. I stepped away from the fire, the darkness wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. I could feel the eyes on me, a prickling sensation that made my skin crawl. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying an eerie melody that sent chills up my spine. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night. I ran back to the campfire, breathless, and found my friends in a panic. One of them was missing, the one who had ventured closest to the trees. We searched frantically, calling out his name, but the only answer was silence. The unease morphed into sheer terror as we realized that the figure was no longer just a figment of our imagination. Our friend was gone, swallowed by the night. After hours of searching, we finally stumbled upon something, an abandoned campsite with remnants of a fire, still warm. It was a sickening reminder of what had happened before. Old, torn-up tents lay scattered, and the air was thick with a sense of despair. Fear gripped us as we imagined what might have happened to our friend. We huddled together, eyes darting to the woods, every sound amplifying the tension. The rustling of leaves made us jump, and I felt like we were being hunted. Just as we decided to leave, a low growl echoed from the trees. We turned, and there it was. The figure, clearer now, with hollow eyes fixed on us. My heart raced. There was no denying the horror before us. It took a step closer, and I could see the glint of something sharp in its hand. We bolted, stumbling over branches and roots, the darkness swallowing us whole. The screams echoed in my ears, a reminder that the woods were no longer our friend. Panic drove us to run blindly, and I could feel something just behind me. After what felt like an eternity, we reached the safety of the car. But as we drove away, I looked back, catching a glimpse of the figure standing at the edge of the lake, watching us leave. Its silhouette was etched into my memory, a ghost I couldn't shake. To this day, I wonder what happened to our friend. The lake still haunts my dreams, a reminder that some secrets are best left buried. Beneath the surface, I can still hear the whispers in the wind, calling me back to that cursed place. It was a crisp autumn morning when I decided to go fishing at Lake Bodom. The fog hung low over the water, giving the place an eerie, ghostly aura. Little did I know I was about to experience true horror. As I cast my line, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned occasionally, expecting to see someone nearby, but the lake was desolate, save for the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Hours passed and my catch was minimal. Frustrated, I took a break and sat back, contemplating the beauty around me. But just then, a rustling noise from the bushes caught my attention. I squinted into the trees, heart racing. It was probably just a deer or some other animal. I dismissed it and returned to my fishing, but the sense of dread lingered in the pit of my stomach. I glanced over my shoulder. The woods felt too still, too quiet. Suddenly the water began to ripple, though there was no breeze. I felt a chill run down my spine as I noticed a dark shape moving just beneath the surface, slowly approaching the shore. I could hardly breathe, entranced by the sight. I stood, mesmerized as the shape grew closer. It was a large, heavy object, bobbing in the water. My curiosity outweighed my fear, and I waded in to retrieve it. The icy water soaked through my jeans, making me shiver. It was a backpack, old and worn. As I opened it, my heart dropped. The contents were a fisherman's worst nightmare: a bloody shirt, a rusted knife, and photographs of people who had been reported missing over the years. I recoiled, terror gripping my chest. A sudden realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The lake held dark secrets, and I had just stumbled upon one. Panic surged within me. I had to leave. I threw the backpack back into the water and turned to run. As I turned to run, I felt a hand grip my shoulder. I froze, my blood running cold. I spun around, expecting to see a ghost, but it was just a fisherman, pale and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to reflect the depths of the lake. What he told me next would haunt me forever. He spoke of a darkness that lurked beneath the surface, a presence that claimed those who dared to disturb its peace. His voice trembled as he recounted tales of those who vanished without a trace. I wanted to flee, but his words ensnared me. He detailed how the lake demanded sacrifice, claiming the lives of those who dared to fish in its waters. My heart raced, and I realized I was standing on cursed ground. Before I could respond, he vanished into the fog, leaving me alone with the chilling realization that I was now part of the lake's story. The mist thickened around me, wrapping me in a cold embrace. I grabbed the backpack, deciding it was time to report my findings. But as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the water. This time it was still, almost mocking. The dark shape below the surface seemed to swirl, beckoning me to return. I ran back to my car, the weight of the backpack heavy in my hands. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching me from the water. The lake felt alive, pulsing with a sinister energy. The lake now feels different, almost alive. And as I look back at the shore, I know one thing for sure. The stories are real, and they are waiting for the next curious soul to discover their depths. I can still hear the echoes of the lost calling from the water, begging me to return. Years ago, I was drawn to Lake Bodom, fascinated by its dark history. One evening, I decided to explore the area alone, armed only with a flashlight and my own foolish bravery. The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of red and orange, but I was too enthralled by the idea of uncovering the lake's secrets. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the landscape, I wandered deeper into the woods. The crunch of leaves beneath my feet echoed in the silence. With each step, I felt the oppressive weight of history pressing down on me. Suddenly, I stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin. Intrigued, I pushed the creaking door open, revealing a chilling sight. The walls were covered in faded photographs, faces of the victims, eyes forever frozen in terror. Their haunted gazes seemed to follow me as I stepped inside. I felt a cold breeze sweep through the cabin, and a whisper echoed in the air, sending shivers down my spine. "Leave while you can," it seemed to say, but I was too entranced to heed the warning. I brushed it off as the wind, my curiosity outweighing my fear. Exploring further, I found a dusty journal lying on a table. As I flipped through its pages, my heart raced. The entries detailed the last days of those who had met a gruesome fate near the lake, recounting their final moments with chilling detail. The final entry sent chills coursing through me. It spoke of a figure lurking in the woods, waiting to claim the next unsuspecting victim, a guardian of the lake's dark history. My hands trembled as I read, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. Just then I heard a noise outside, a low growl followed by the crunch of leaves. My heart pounded as I felt the oppressive weight of fear settle over me. I had to know what was out there, but the urge to flee was strong. I quickly exited the cabin, flashlight trembling in my hands. The woods were dark and the shadows seemed to shift, moving closer with every heartbeat. The growling sound grew louder, more menacing, echoing through the trees. I glanced back at the cabin, now shrouded in darkness. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the trees, watching, waiting. My breath caught in my throat as I felt a primal instinct to run. I turned to run, adrenaline surging through my veins. The sounds of branches snapping echoed behind me, a chilling reminder that I wasn't alone. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, drowning out everything else. Reaching the lake's edge, I stumbled and fell, the cold water splashing around me. I glanced back, and the figure was there, eyes glinting with malice, a wicked smile playing on its lips. It took a step closer, and I could see it more clearly, a twisted, malevolent grin. Desperation coursed through my veins as I clawed my way back to my feet, sprinting down the shoreline. The water lapped at my legs, trying to pull me under. My breath came in gasps, and I could feel the figure gaining on me. Just as I reached my car, I turned for one last look. The figure stood at the water's edge, arms outstretched, a ghastly silhouette against the moonlight. I could feel its eyes boring into my soul, a promise of dread. I drove away in a haze, heart racing, mind racing with questions. Who or what was that figure? And why did I feel like I had escaped something ancient and powerful? The lake would never let me go, and every time I hear its name, I feel that icy grip on my heart once more. Years later, I still feel the weight of that encounter. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear whispers carried by the wind, echoes of the past, warning me never to return. And yet, a part of me is drawn back, knowing that the lake holds its secrets tight, waiting for the next curious soul to wander too close.